It is the Wave 97.9 WHAV. Hey, good morning. It's Win for breakfast, and we have a guest in the studio. It is Essex County Sheriff Kevin Coppinger, and should I call you Sheriff or should I call you Kevin?
Kevin works fine for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that what the nuns used to call you at school?
Well, they might have called me a few other things, but Kevin's fine.
Okay. We only kid about that because we have a couple of broadcasting rules here at the Wave 97.9 WHAV. You can't touch the table, and you kept your hands on your lap. So
as trained by the nuns.
About that. I was talking about you last night. It was at a roast and toast over at the Bradford Country Club, and they were roasting Elaine Barker. Have you met Elaine before?
Yes. Yep.
That goes with the story. Woman. Everybody knows
Elaine.
And I was talking with Lane Glenn.
Oh, yeah.
And he was all excited about a graduation ceremony over at one of your facilities, I guess, and he said it was very, very touching.
Yeah. Lane was in last week. In fact, we had a recognition ceremony for 163 inmates in Middleton, and these are guys who are in jail and incarcerated. That's a difficult thing for a lot of people, but they're there for a reason. Like somebody in the court sent them, the judge or a jury. But our philosophy is, while they're in there, no pun intended, we have a captive audience. Let's do what we can, and we partner with President Glenn and the staff from Northern Essex to come in and teach the inmates, whether it's high school equivalency or maybe a college-level course. And it's amazing when you see the inmates transition into a learning environment. They're getting something out of it, and we do the ceremony, as you just mentioned the other day, and we're giving these guys a piece of paper, and it's really something that they never thought they'd even be able to achieve because they've been down on their luck. They're in jail. Let's face it, that's not a good thing. But it's a ticket out of jail, hopefully someday, with some other services that we can provide to them so they don't come back to jail and don't come back to communities, the 34 communities in Essex County, and commit crime again, and that reduces public safety. So it all goes hand in hand, but I got to say kudos to the staff at Northern Essex Community College. They're great partners with us.
And that's one of your stops today.
I'm leaving here right afterwards. We have our STAR program, which is supporting transition and reentry, over in Lawrence. We have one in Lynn and one in Lawrence. So all the things we do inside the jail with the inmates to help them recover from their past history. And then when I first ran for sheriff, was one of my ideas. You need something in the communities, an extension of what we do, but not inside a fence or inside a wall, so to speak. So the Lawrence facility, we have a ceremony at 11 o'clock. And just going to do the same thing there. Some certificates to guys who are outside the jail, who left jail, or maybe they even coming off the street, because we've partnered with local police departments. They can send people to the program before they get arrested, before they end up in court. And we'll give them the same services with Northern Essex, as well as some other clinical services from some folks at like Spectrum Healthcare that might be trying to deal with some of the addiction or mental health issues that they have. But it's kind of like wraparound services, looking at the causes of why these gentlemen and ladies are in jail, and trying to correct those issues and give them a better chance when they get out, so they don't come back to see us. And that's what we're trying to accomplish.
So some of these people are given a choice, and they say you can go to court or you can go to this class.
That's so true. And even when they come into the jail, so when they come into the jail, they can do nothing. We can't force treatment on them. We can't force education on them. They can sit in a cell and they can work, stay in during their time. Or we try to look at the carrot on the stick approach, saying, here's what we got. Try these programs, come over. And one of the reactions that got brought out at the ceremony I just mentioned a few minutes ago last week was one of the inmates said, when I'm in the classroom, in the regular classrooms like in any school, he goes, I don't think I'm in jail. I'm seeing another area. I'm seeing, some good coming out. And then when they come up and we give them the certificate, they shake their hand, and it's just, you see some, like a little bit of confidence and a little bit of a rebuild in their lives because they know they've accomplished something nice. A little piece of paper. But to these guys, a lot of them, this is like, hopefully they ticket out of the criminal justice system and get back to the community with reentry with the family and friends and hopefully a job. And hopefully, like I always say to them when we finish the ceremonies, don't take this personal, guys. I never want to see you again here. If I see you at Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, I'll gladly buy you a cup of coffee. But let's not see you inside the walls of the jails anymore, because that's not good.
Now, we're talking with Essex County Sheriff Kevin Coppinger, and the rehabilitation programs, to help people get off alcohol and drugs and things like that. That's very important. And I believe that you have you have talked to various groups around the country about what you do.
Yes, back in 2018, the state passed criminal justice reform. Part of it was to bring in medication-assisted treatment, which are medications that help people, especially with the opiate epidemic, trying to get off those type of meds, the fentanyl, the heroin, and some other assorted ones. So we kind of, and by the way, I have great staff. I got to give them credit. I can sit here as sheriff and take all the credit, but it's the people, the men and women that work with us that really put the time into it. But we put together the program, and there's a lot of these facilities in our communities where they give the medications to the folks with substance use disorder and mental illness, but really more the substance use disorder. So we got creative working with the DEA, because they regulate this, as well as Mass Department of Public Health, and we took one of those facilities and built it inside a correctional institution. Something that I think we're one of, if not the first, one of the first in the country. And then we combined not only the medication under a doctor's care, not correctional folks. We get professional MDs in there making the calls. And then we have clinical services, because it's not just giving somebody a pill to fix their issues, especially with the mental illness and the substance use, but you got to go through clinical services. So sitting down with a social worker or a clinician, and we're dealing with the mental piece of it, or how to transition out of these issues. And it's been very successful. We average about 225 people a day. We got national recognition. We've been called a national model. And just last month, we hosted 9 sheriff's offices from across the country, everywhere from California to Wisconsin to Michigan, down in Virginia, Georgia, even up to Maine. And they came to Essex County just to learn how we did it. And we explained our whole blueprint to them, and they want to take those services back to their communities and duplicate them, so they can just treat their folks in their regional areas. And it does work. It does. You see our recidivism rate, which is what we're checked on. How many people come back to jail, and our rate is 17.4%. After a year, they don't come back. Massachusetts, for many years, has had the lowest incarceration rate across the country, and not just me. A lot of my other peers do the same thing here. But it is something that's a major change. Back in 18, or a major culture shock to the criminal justice system. We got away from just lock them up and throw away the key. Now we're treating what I like to call the root causes of crime: substance use disorder and mental illness. Because if we don't, we're one of the largest treatment facilities in the state. Think about it, collectively. I have average about 925 inmates on a daily basis to our 3 facilities. 70% of them have one of these issues: mental health or substance use disorder. So you look at it like that. People don't think about the sheriff's office like that, but we are one of the major treatment facilities for both substance use disorder and mental illness. And I don't care where you live in those 34 cities and towns in Essex County, folks with those issues residing in your neighborhoods.
When I was a kid, I grew up in Concord, Mass, and they had the reformatory there, and then they also had the farm there too, right across from the Route 2 Rotary.
Yep. Yeah. I remember driving by it many times.
Now you have the farm in Lawrence, right?
Yeah, we average about 36,000 pounds of produce. This is our time of year. The inmates, that's one of the things we do. We teach the inmates also vocational skills, and that the farm is incredible. We hire an actual farmer to come in and teach the inmates, but they do all the cleaning of the fields in the spring. They plant them. They take care of them all summer, and then they harvest them. And then we take the harvest, and we take some of it to feed the inmates inside all our facilities. But we also donate it to a lot of charities and nonprofits. And just a little side issue. I would think it was up here in Haverhill a couple of years ago. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if they still do it, but we donated the pumpkins to one of the elementary schools, and the kids took pumpkins and they drew faces on them with a Sharpie, and then they partnered with one of the local restaurants on the 99, and then they had like Parents' Day or Grandparents' Day. So they put the pumpkins out in the lobby. Of course, every parent and grandparent for little Johnny and Mary came and bought the pumpkins, and the money went to the nonprofits again. So they made some money off the pumpkins that we were able to grow with no charge. We give them away, but we're also at the same time teaching the inmates a skill. So they get out, they can get a job, and hopefully don't come back and see us inside the jail.
Yeah, those farm jobs are difficult to fill, and so if you get some good folks doing that, that's a good thing. Wow, 925 people in your program.
Yeah, and we because we're a jail and a house of correction, a lot of people don't understand the difference. Jail means you haven't been tried yet. We call them pretrial, and then we have the house of correction. You've been found guilty. All right, but out of the 925, and because we're pretrial, we house murderers, serious sex offenders, rapists, gangbangers, a lot of heavy firearms charges. So about 40% of our inmates are really serious felons, who a lot of them will probably end up in prison. Prison is the Department of Corrections, where that's where you're going for a long, long time. We only house them up to 2.5 years. So, but because we're a transient entity, because there's so much going back and forth, we house everybody. So out of that 925, you got, like I said, 40% of them are in there with really heavy, serious felonies. We average about 40 murderers inside a facility on any given day. So we have to be on our game. The most important thing about running a jail and a house of correction is security and safety. We don't want anybody getting hurt inside of our institution. So we really put that as a number one entity for what we try to strive for. And then the rest of it, even the inmates who probably end up going up to prison, upstate as they say, we still will provide them the treatment services that we can offer, because whatever we can do here, hopefully we can hand off to whether they go back to a community in our STAR programs, or if they go up to the Department of Corrections, and hopefully they can help deal with these addictions or some of the mental illness, because that's what's causing crime these days. Not everything. Majority of crime is being caused by mental illness and substance use disorder.
Now, talking about the really bad people that are in there, do they commingle at all?
Well, no, they can't. They can't reside together. In some instances, they may be in the same general area. We try to separate them because, I've been around a long time, and we don't want to. I thrive on the education piece we talked about, but I don't want the senior inmates teaching the younger kids who are coming in for the first time any skills that we don't want having brought back into the community, like how to break into a house or how to rob a convenience store, something like that. We frown on that type of education. We're trying to get to the good stuff.
I know somebody who spent some time, I think, in New Hampshire, and he called it finishing school.
Yeah, that's believe me, we're well aware of that. So we try to separate and keep the borders between them.
How about now? And I know you're headed off to Northern Essex, and they run programs to teach police officers and things like that. Do they also? Is there different training for corrections officers versus police officers?
Yep. Our correctional academy, which is a 12-week academy, is also at Northern Essex. Again, President Glenn and his crew host us up there, and we're right next door to the police academy. We train together. We share instructors. We share common practices and stuff like that. And then you have correctional officers, and then you have a deputy sheriffs. So they have a higher level of training, usually through the Massachusetts Police Training Committee, and they can go out. They have police powers. They have full police powers. So we're up here in Haverhill quite often, in some of the other cities and towns, just helping out when they're short personnel from their own departments, or if they're having a big event, we can send our deputy sheriffs up to supplement the local law enforcement anywhere in the county. So we're like a force multiplier when needed. But that additional training comes on top of the basic 12 weeks. And then we work collectively and hand in hand with a lot of police. We have a lot of canine dogs. And I know we're up here in Haverhill a lot when they're looking for maybe a lost elder or a lost child or something like that. Or maybe even a suspect in a criminal matter. But we'll bring the dogs up and help out the local police.
Now, over at Wolfstock, which was a week or two ago now, I forgot, but they had the canines over there. But before they got there, they had a comfort dog.
Yeah.
So that's neat.
We have a comfort dog. His name is Paskey. Paskey was named after Officer Anthony Pasquarello, who was one of our correctional officers, and it's a sad story, but at age 37, he passed away during the peak of COVID. And he was a great officer. He just got COVID, got a bad case of it, and we lost him, and it was troubling. So in his memory, in cooperation with his family, we got our first comfort dog, and we named it Paskey in honor of Officer Pasquarello, and it just kind of keeps his memory alive with our officers. And he's there for the staff. So, and we have like 600 employees. So Paskey makes the rounds from all our facilities, and he's always got us. He loves to be patted, and it's just a nice thing for the staff to give him a little bright side of their day when sometimes it's a tough job working in a correctional facility, and that's just something we're trying to help addressing the wellness of our people.
I imagine. I can't imagine working one of those, but you do, and it looks like and sounds like you're doing a great job. And anything else you'd like to add this morning?
No, not on top of that, but just we're here, and I know a lot of people don't know they have sheriffs, so they don't know what the sheriff does, and that's why I just wanted to come out and kind of spread the word. And it's something that if you don't know, you've never interacted with the sheriff, that's a good thing. But on the other hand, what we do, what the staff does, let me go back to the staffing, and what they do, working with the inmates day in and day out, does improve public safety in all our communities, because we're trying to better these individuals that are in our custody, as I said a couple of times. So when they leave, they have opportunities to succeed and not fall back to a life of crime. Because we're doing pretty good throughout the county right now with the crime rates, but they could change at a moment's notice. So we want to try and stay ahead of the game and help the communities to be better.
And I know I mentioned correctional officers, but you are probably always have a need to hire other people too, like teachers and things like that.
Yeah, we, in addition to our staff, we have about 200 vendors and volunteers. From the healthcare. Obviously, we have an aging inmate population, so we partner with an outside health agency who comes in and manages the healthcare, and that's a busy job. Aramark, same company that you can get a Fenway Frank in Boston. They supply the food to the inmates. And no, we don't serve Fenway Franks in our facilities. I'm sorry, we don't. But the meals are good. Very, very, very few complaints. And then we have a number of other vendors and volunteers just to help us in the specific areas where we're correctional staff, we're security, we're safety. And when you get into those other areas we've been talking about here this morning, we want professionals in those different venues or avenues to bring in the best care we can, so we can take care of the inmates and I keep saying, return them to society and they never come back to see us again.
All right. Well, Kevin, I have learned an awful lot this morning, and I thank you for that. And hopefully we'll get you back.
Anytime. I appreciate it, Wynn, very much.
All right. Monday morning. Essex County Sheriff Kevin Coppinger, our guest this morning right here on the WHAV, 97.9 WHAV.
Wake up with Wynn Damon weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on 97.9 FM WHAV.